You're already here, so let's not even waste time. Let's begin. Right off the bat, what I really like about this video is that the video matches the energy of the song. So as the music continues on, you always know exactly where the video is going to be heading, energy-wise, but the choreography was really great in this video. I liked what you did with the animation, especially with the use of bricks for blending. You actually pulled it off really well here. And everything from the easing in and out feeling super energetic at points, and to the points where it feels like an anime, all the hits feel really impactful. I would just try to get the camera to match the same kind of energy, since the camera is rather still. And if you're using an iPhone, you can just tilt it to the other side, so you can get the camera closer, and that would really help you out. And if you're going to get closer, in this hypothetical, you should also get a macro lens. But generally, this is a great way to begin this review. 9 out of 10. I really like that since this is a full season, you can see your animation get better and better as time goes on, but the part you still need to consistently work on more is to make sure that the vocals are not way too loud. Since I was watching your video at like 30% volume, but it felt like it was at 60%. But even though the animation was getting better as time went on, there was still a heavy usage of having still frames and parts where you could have added more frames for dialogue, so it didn't just feel like you were looking at a still photo, which we were. If you're gonna be cutting corners to get a video done faster, that's not the best way to do it. The best way to do it is to lower the frame rate, but try to learn and practice that frame rate. So in the end, it doesn't really feel like you're losing anything, but always avoid trying to use one still frame for dialogue. If there's anything I have to call out about the story, is I really like that even though it's a long season, right, things are shockingly well paced. In the same way I mentioned that I can tell how you've been improving overall. As the series continues, this is especially seen in the middle of the video, where crowds of soldiers are being exploded. And one more thing I have to mention is that you should have definitely got more voice actors, even though I know they're supposed to be clones. Especially with the still frames, it was hard to understand sometimes who was speaking to who, but despite the flaws in this season, it was still very well structured, so 7.5 out of 10. I've already mentioned this in the YouTube short before, but I really like that even though the camera is very wide with the aspect ratio, you made sure to zoom out with the camera so it didn't feel like we were cropped in with the characters. Instead, the camera was just wider, which is still a big issue I see other people do. And to make that even better, you embrace the aspect ratio by having the characters more or less always go from one side to the other. And also, even though the video was dimly lit, it never felt like you were losing visibility. It only added style, and I've seen that a lot in your videos. This is all being said without even mentioning the lighting you did for the impacts of the lasers, and because of which there's not really anything I can tell you that could actually help you out here. So 10 out of 10. I like how you did your teleportation, but that kind of energy does not work with the cutting to black. Since there was no rhythm to it, you cut it whenever you like, but it doesn't really work. If you give it each time you do it a specific amount of time and repeat it, then it gives it a flow. But if you don't, it just messes up with your eyes. Also, go above a whisper level when you're speaking. But if you're not allowed to yell at home, instead learn how to direct your voice. Some music would have helped you out here, especially with the black part I told you about. That way it has a natural rhythm. And also in the end of the video, when they're right next to your window, you should try to figure something else out with the framing, because a lot of the times they were all the way to the extreme corners or sides of the frame, which gave some shots just a lot of wasted space. 6 out of 10. Your animation, mainly for the first kill, was really good, but with the second one needed more, with just more easing in and out. That way each time the guy got hit, it felt way more impactful, since he did take a lot of damage. Also, try to get some kind of desk lamp, since the ceiling light just really removes a lot of the tone and vibe from the video. Also, it's kind of weird making a Halloween video this time of the year, but despite of that, all the other kills afterwards were really well done. I would also just have the other guy that was slammed have some kind of more movement onto his body other than just being a still figure. 8 out of 10. Before Iron Man suited up, you should have worked more on the framing, since there was a lot of wasted space in the bottom half. But when he did get larger, you did fix it there, so I will give you that. And when I say you fixed it, I really did mean that you fixed it, because when we went back to smaller figures and when Darth Vader introduced himself, it was a crazy good intro. I have zero complaints there, especially with the Stormtrooper being choked from the left side of the video. It automatically made me think he was on the right side, but it turns out it was a completely different thing, and I love that. But when the largest figures swing at each other and throw each other, make sure they have more movements on the hips. That way you can actually sell the idea more and make it look more convincing. Solid work here though. 8.5 out of 10.
Above the chemical lake was a negative cloud hand in hand with a reserve.
I already called this out in the YouTube short, but really make sure that you're filming on manual, because that's the only way to truly get rid of the change of lighting brightness and lighting temperature. Any other way is just gonna ruin you for the future. But the animation here is excellent, but I do also feel like the sound effects you use in this video are very outdated, like by 5-6 years. So the comedy there doesn't really land. Also, you should have gone for a more dim kind of lighting, since it felt like the middle of a sunny day, which I wouldn't say matches this video much. If you're using the ceiling light, that's one thing, and I don't blame you for that. But I recommend you getting a desk lamp, and also for some parts where you get close to the figures, I recommend for you to also get a macro lens. That way you can get closer to the figures, and that opens a window of new opportunities. And there is a lot of potential here, but for now it's still an 8 out of 10, which is still really good.
If looks could kill, baby, I'm the fashion.
The teleportation effects you did for ghosts were absolutely amazing. They were super simple, but you went really creative with them, and I'm gonna congratulate that. The same thing goes with having the dim lighting, or at least it was just dark lighting, but it also made everything still look visible. I never felt like I lost information. But even though the lighting was dim, it didn't feel dramatic, which also helped out this video. Because with the movements they had, they didn't really have a very intense vibe to begin with. So as a whole, everything was put together really well. I would have, however, used some kind of lighting every time a gunshot was blasted, since that's the weakness of this kind of dim lighting. The ending was good, but it just didn't feel like you put the same amount of energy on it. But that's not really gonna make you lose any points, because it was just them leaving. Regardless of that, this is still a really solid video. 9.5 out of 10. Alright, that's enough for today, and expect a lot more videos soon. Like and subscribe, and especially share, and see you guys next time.